At the class reunion, my ex-wife noticed the engagement ring on my hand and asked playfully, "Is your fiancé prettier than I am?" Everyone egged me on. I twirled the ring on my finger and replied, "She is indeed a bit prettier." My ex-wife's face darkened. As the event wrapped up, she blocked my way, saying, "You chased after me like a simp for 7 years, and now you're suddenly engaged. What about me? How did you feel about me back then?" I chuckled softly. Let's just say I was blind. Chapter 1. At the class reunion, drinks flowed one after another. Before I could have my fill, Elizabeth placed her hand over my glass and said with concern, "You don't have a strong stomach. Don't overdo it." The air grew still for a moment. Perhaps she forgot, we'd been broken up for a long time. Chapter 2. Elizabeth and I, you could say, had a fateful entanglement. During the freshman orientation, I fell in love with her at first sight. I began to pursue her passionately, bringing her breakfast, making her ginger tea during her period, ordering roses on her birthday. I did everything she asked, always following her lead. Everyone knew Elizabeth had a dedicated, obedient simp. As time went by, she got used to my presence. In our 3rd year, I confessed to her for the 865th time. "Elizabeth, be my girlfriend," I said, holding a bouquet. Her expression was as unreadable as ever. I couldn't tell what she was thinking. Silly. She took the flowers from me but neither agreed nor declined. Yet, given Elizabeth's ambiguous attitude, everyone assumed we were dating. As we neared graduation, trouble hit Elizabeth's family. Her father, exhausted from overworking, had crashed and caused a fatal accident, facing a 300,000 yuan compensation fee. Her mother was bedridden with illness and had been for years. Her family had lost its main support and was burdened with debt. At the time, I had just started my own business. My company had recently gone public and was doing well. I had made some money. I brought a bank card and went to Elizabeth's house. The doorway was defaced with red paint scrawling "A life for a life." People passing by would spit on the ground. I knocked on the door and found it unlocked. When I stepped inside, I saw Elizabeth sitting in the kitchen, staring into space. I walked over, handed her the bank card, and hugged her tightly. "Don't worry, I'm here for you." Elizabeth looked at me, a trace of emotion finally surfacing in her vacant gaze. Her eyes filled with tears, brimming, about to fall. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. "Because I like you." Elizabeth froze. After a long moment, she said, "Jack, let's be together." Chapter 3. After graduating from college, Elizabeth and I moved in together. I continued running my business, and with my help, Elizabeth also started her own company, which was close to going public. We were both making progress in life. One evening, with the lights off, Elizabeth suddenly asked, "Jack, do you like kids?" "Huh, kids?" I paused for a moment and asked, "What about you? Do you like them?" "No, they're too noisy." "Oh, then we won't." "But," Elizabeth interrupted, "I want to have a child of ours." After that, we tried many times, but there was no news. Elizabeth went to the hospital for a checkup, and they diagnosed her with polycystic ovaries, infertility. During that time, she was in low spirits. To help her out of the gloom, I proposed marriage. She accepted with joy. That night, she cried for a long time. She said, "Jack, thank you for loving someone like me." Chapter 4. On our anniversary, we went on a date. Halfway through the meal, she felt nauseous and started vomiting. A visit to the hospital confirmed that she was 2 months pregnant. Elizabeth burst into happy tears and hugged me, saying, "Jack, we're having a baby, our baby." I smiled and held her close. I had 1,000 things to say, but not a single word came out. To focus on her pregnancy, Elizabeth wanted to temporarily step back from her company, but there was no one fully capable of handling it. While she was torn, Samuel came into the picture. He was a year below Elizabeth in college, recently graduated, but highly capable. Elizabeth appointed Samuel as her acting proxy. He shuttled between the company and our home, reporting to Elizabeth daily, discussing matters which Samuel would then relay to the company's leadership. Every time I came home from work, Elizabeth would pull me aside to chat about the day, often mentioning Samuel. "He's dependable and hardworking. Truly impressive. Jack, he's a talent. Once I'm back at the company after having the baby, maybe you could consider recruiting him to our team." "Silly." I tapped her forehead. "This is one of your top people. Are you really just handing him over?" "Yes. Samuel is sharp and would save you a lot of hassle. If you're less stressed, I'll feel more at ease." Chapter 5. When Elizabeth and I were most in love, we wanted to be with each other every day. But soon after, things began to change. I'm not sure when it started, but our conversations shifted from planning our future together to discussing how remarkable Samuel was. Samuel really is smart. Samuel's quite thoughtful too. He even remembered my menstrual cycle and prepared ginger tea in advance. Though he doesn't know there's no cycle during pregnancy. Today Samuel came over to report work and made fried rice for me. Turns out he's pretty good in the kitchen. Samuel brought me a flower on his way over today. Said it suited me. Samuel asked me out over the weekend to thank me for mentoring him. The other day, when you were away on business, Samuel stayed late to discuss work. I let him stay over. Funny enough, he talks in his sleep. Such a surprising contrast. Samuel's birthday is coming up. I want to get him a gift to show my appreciation for all his hard work recently. Samuel, everything was about Samuel. Elizabeth, could you stop talking about Samuel? I asked. She paused. Sorry, you're busy at the company, and I really shouldn't burden you with so much chatter. I guess I'm talking too much. No, she didn't understand. It wasn't about her talking too much. Elizabeth, change your acting proxy. I don't like Samuel, I said bluntly. Why? He's so capable. There's no one else like him. What exactly is your issue with him? Besides, this is my company and my proxy. How is it your concern? How is it my concern? I licked my lips bitterly. Then how was it Samuel's concern? She had begun to shut me out in favor of Samuel. Seeing me remain silent, Elizabeth placed a hand on her belly and gave a bitter smile. Is it because I'm pregnant and we can't be close, so you've lost interest? Chapter 6. I couldn't understand why Elizabeth would think that. I worked harder than ever, took on more challenges. Wasn't it all for her and our future child's happiness? I felt anger and a sense of injustice. Can you get it together? I'm the baby's father. I'm your husband. Samuel is just an outsider. I shouted at her. Elizabeth seemed taken aback. She froze for a moment, then retreated to the bedroom, slamming the door and locking it with a quick click. I stood there, staring at the 2 movie tickets left on the table. It felt like somewhere inside me, something also shattered with a click. Elizabeth and I were in a cold war that lasted nearly a week. She didn't initiate any conversations, even avoided sharing a meal with me. At first, I did the same, but a few days in, I softened and tried to talk to her. She ignored me and threw a jab. Weren't you the one who found me annoying? The day before my business trip, she was still sulking. As I stood by the door, I said, I'm off. Call me if you need anything. Almost reflexively, she responded, take care on the road. Realizing what she'd said, she turned away, casually reaching for the TV remote, adding, I was talking to the air. Okay, I nodded. I stocked the fridge with fruits and honey. Don't do any chores while I'm gone. I'll have the housekeeper come by. I'll be back in a few days. Chapter 7. Despite the fight with Elizabeth, I was full of hope when I returned from my business trip. I wondered what she might be doing now. Would she be lying in bed reading a novel, experimenting with various desserts in the kitchen, or perhaps lounging on the sofa, telling stories to our unborn child? I imagined many possibilities, but I never expected to see her laughing and teasing with Samuel. I don't know what Samuel said, but it made Elizabeth laugh heartily. She gently patted his shoulder, saying, stop it. While her eyes sparkled with joy, Samuel just looked at her silently, then reached out and tucked a loose strand of her hair behind her ear. I stood in the doorway, my face dark. When Elizabeth noticed me, her smile faded, and she returned to the sulky expression she had before I left. You're back, she said curtly. Yes, I'm back. Samuel invited me to dinner. I'll be going out later, so you can just make yourself something to eat. If you don't feel like cooking, I can bring back some leftovers for you. That won't be necessary, I replied, mustering the last of my strength. Before leaving, Samuel gave me a nod and then walked out with Elizabeth. Left alone in the empty house, I felt an overwhelming frustration. What did I do wrong? What went wrong? We were fine before this. We were truly in love. Could love really just fade away? I felt so tired. Maybe it was time to let go. I sighed and made myself a cup of instant noodles. I thought, it was time for us to have a serious talk. Chapter 8. When Elizabeth returned, I handed her a glass of honey water. Elizabeth, I have something to say. I'm tired. Let's talk tomorrow. I think we need to clear this up as soon as possible. It won't take much time. Elizabeth set down the glass impatiently. Can't you be a little considerate? I walked a lot today. I'm exhausted. Elizabeth, Jack, she interrupted. Can you stop being so unreasonable? I don't know what's gotten into you lately. Whether it's too much pressure or you just don't love me anymore, but you're always snapping at me, even ignoring me sometimes. And now, out of nowhere, you want to talk. What do you want to talk about? Are you planning to discuss divorce, or maybe custody of the baby? Jack, don't you see that our life has fallen apart? I stared at Elizabeth in disbelief. Elizabeth, what do you even think of our marriage now? She didn't respond to my question, only said, Jack, we both need some space. Over the next few days, our relationship grew even colder. One day over dinner, Elizabeth casually told me, Samuel confessed his feelings to me. My chopsticks froze midair, and the food fell onto the table. What? What did you say to him? I don't know. She shook her head. My mind is a mess right now. Jack, I'm afraid rejecting him outright would hurt him, but I can't let go of you and the baby. Her voice trailed off until it faded into silence. Looking at Elizabeth's downcast expression, I couldn't hold back my frustration any longer. Chapter 9. Elizabeth, do you even want this marriage anymore? I set my chopsticks down forcefully on the table. Elizabeth was stunned. After a moment, she stood up, slamming her hands on the table. Why are you yelling out of nowhere? You mentioned Samuel's name constantly. Now he's confessed to you, and you're worried rejecting him might hurt his feelings. Who the hell is your husband? Jack, are you out of your mind? Yes, he confessed to me, but what does that have to do with me? I hired him as my proxy. It's all work-related. So I mentioned his name a few times. What's the big deal? Do you really need to overthink this? You go on dates with him, have meals with him, watch movies, fool around on the sofa. You indulge him time and time again. Elizabeth, you're lying through your teeth. You call this work? Tell me, does this look like work to you? Jack, Elizabeth shouted my name. You don't trust me. How am I supposed to trust you? We were at an impasse, and the door clicked open. Samuel stood in the doorway, looking between us. What's going on? I sneered, pointing at him. You gave him a spare key, too, Elizabeth. Wow, just wow. Elizabeth ran her hand through her hair, exasperated. Jack, I don't get it. Back in college, you chased after me tirelessly, even going so far as to buy breakfast for my flings and deliver running shoes for 3 years without complaint. And now, you're blowing up over a key. It doesn't mean anything, yet you're making it out to be a big deal. I don't understand. Do you have to pick a fight to feel satisfied? Elizabeth, search your heart and tell me, is this really just about a key? Elizabeth fell silent. At this point, Samuel, standing by, spoke up. Jack, please don't blame Elizabeth. It's all my fault. I'm the one who likes her, and I'm the one who pursued her. I'm sorry, it's my fault. Chapter 10. Samuel apologized to me 3 times, even bowing, before running out the door. Samuel, Elizabeth tried to stop him, chasing him to the door. I called out to her, if you step out of that door today, we'll never go back to how things were. Jack, don't make me choose. It's either me and our child, or Samuel, I said, pressing her again. Her tears spilled over. She cried with the same heart-wrenching sadness as when I found her in her family's kitchen during senior year. Elizabeth touched her belly and said to me, I'm sorry, Jack. Elizabeth still left. In the end, I was alone in the empty house, utterly alone, abandoned and solitary. After a week of wallowing, I sold the place we had shared. Samuel accompanied Elizabeth to the Civil Affairs Bureau, and we officially divorced. I never contacted Elizabeth after that, only hearing through old classmates that she followed Samuel's advice, sold her company shares, and flew abroad with him, and the only child I had with Elizabeth was lost forever, urged to be abandoned under a cold scalpel at Samuel's behest. Chapter 11. As I came back to my senses, Elizabeth seemed to realize that she had overstepped, remaining silent. Oh, just once in a while, the class monitor chimed in, pulling everyone back to a lighter mood. He laughed. Tonight's a reunion, so let's drink as much as we want. Come on, let's fill up those glasses. Xing also joined in the teasing, saying, our class beauty is still just as kind-hearted and beautiful. Ha. Elizabeth gave a helpless smile as she looked at her old classmates. You all just love flattering me, don't you? I might start to believe it. Ha. Being humble as always. Everyone knows you're the renowned beauty. Elizabeth. Exactly. Back then, you had Jack wrapped around your finger. He even said he'd never marry anyone but you. Cameron, tipsy, added his 2 cents, and the atmosphere that had just lightened plummeted back to an icy silence. The class monitor tooted and patted Cameron's shoulder, signaling him to be quiet. I downed a glass of wine, brushing it off. It's all in the past. Elizabeth hesitated for a moment, then gave a bitter smile and echoed, yes, all in the past. Perhaps to ease the tension, Elizabeth casually tried to make small talk with me. Hey, Jack, that plain ring on your hand is pretty nice, but it seems like it's on the wrong finger. No, the class monitor coughed, but Elizabeth didn't seem to notice and pointed to her right middle finger, smiling as she continued, the left hand has a special meaning. It should go on the right hand. You're still as careless as ever. I looked down, touched the ring, and smiled slightly. It's not on the wrong finger. I'm engaged. Chapter 12. Elizabeth stared at me in disbelief. Her eyes, usually so calm, were filled with mixed emotions. The class monitor clapped his hands and clicked his tongue at me. Jack, that's not fair. Elizabeth might have been abroad for a while, but you could have at least shared the good news with us. We're old friends, and you didn't even. Seriously, that's not cool. Men, share the news? After she publicly announced her relationship with Samuel, he said keeping my contact information didn't feel safe. Just like that, with a single, dismissive not safe, she blocked me and cut off all contact. Even if I had wanted to share the news, how could I? Both families were busy with the engagement banquet and such, and then I got caught up in work. I completely forgot. That's on me. I'll drink to that. I said with a smile. With that, I poured myself a drink and downed it in one go. Elizabeth snapped out of her thoughts and forced a smile, but it was too strained, looking worse than if she'd just cried. Jack, that really was sudden. I haven't even met your fiancée. Cameron, still tipsy, piped up. Not fiancée, soon you'll have to call her wife. Yeah, I haven't met your fiancée, Elizabeth said, clutching her glass and downing its contents. What's she like? What kind of person is she? What's her personality like? How tall is she? Is she local? Then she added, is she prettier than me? Chapter 13. Seeing Elizabeth's playful question, the class monitor figured she had moved on and didn't avoid the topic of my fiancé anymore. You know, Sophia's not bad looking herself. Yeah, tall, with an oval face, gentle as water. I heard she's a designer too, quite accomplished. Oh, Jack should bring her along one day so we can meet her. Elizabeth forced a smile that looked painfully unnatural. She's really that pretty. She is indeed a bit prettier than you, I replied, twirling the ring on my finger with a smile. Well, lucky you, Elizabeth muttered. Yeah, and you? How are things with Samuel? Any plans to get married? I asked casually. Yeah, Elizabeth. It's about time to settle down and find some peace. The class monitor sighed. Elizabeth fidgeted with her fingers. I'm still thinking about it. As the drinks kept coming and evening fell, the gathering wound down, and everyone left one by one. When I went to the parking lot to call for a designated driver, Elizabeth blocked my way. How have these past few years been for you? She asked. Pretty good. Sometimes I dream of the days we used to have. Let the past stay in the past. Jack, do you really have to be so cold toward me? I couldn't quite understand Elizabeth's intentions here. She had a boyfriend, and I had a fiancé. Alone. In the evening, shouldn't we be keeping our distance? Was this really being cold? Are you really going to spend the rest of your life with someone else? Elizabeth asked when I didn't respond. She grabbed my arm, her eyes red with a near-desperate look, and demanded, Jack, you chased after me for 7 years, and now you're just getting married. What about me? What am I to you? I shook her hand off and replied with a faint smile. Consider it my blindness in the past. Chapter 14. Elizabeth's body shook, her lips quivering as she tried to speak, but no words came out. I didn't give her another look. Just then, my driver arrived, and I got into the car and left. The next evening, when I returned home, I found Elizabeth there. You're back. Sophia walked over, helping me take off my coat. I ran into Elizabeth on my way home. She mentioned she was an old friend of yours, so I invited her over. I looked at Elizabeth, and she looked back at me, smiling with some vague purpose. Sophia put on an apron and headed to the kitchen. I'll whip up a few dishes so you two can catch up. Only Elizabeth and I remained in the living room. I pulled Elizabeth aside to the foyer and lowered my voice. What exactly are you trying to do? Elizabeth smiled. What's the matter? Am I, as your ex-wife, someone you can't introduce? Elizabeth, why the yelling? Jack, you haven't changed. Elizabeth shrugged off my grip and returned to the sofa. We were happy once, weren't we? Oh, by the way, does Sophia know you were married before? I clenched my fists. Elizabeth, wasn't it your choice to give up our child, to abandon your career for Samuel? Isn't that life with him fulfilling enough for you? Why come back to mess with me? Do I owe you something from a past life? Elizabeth didn't respond. Her gaze drifted toward the kitchen, where Sophia had just entered the living room. I just remembered there's some cake in the fridge from before, Sophia said as she pulled out the desserts, handing one to Elizabeth and one to me. Elizabeth, try it. I buy from this place often, and it's pretty good. Thank you, Sophia. Elizabeth replied with a smile. Jack, no sneaking bites, Sophia teased, glancing at me with a smile. Your stomach isn't strong. The cake's a bit chilled. Wait a bit before eating. Chapter 15. At the dinner table, Sophia and Elizabeth chatted for a long time. Enough chatting. It's getting late. Elizabeth should probably head home. Wouldn't want her boyfriend to worry. Right, I said, glancing at Elizabeth, subtly hinting that it was time for her to leave. Elizabeth, however, had no intention of leaving. She held Sophia's hand. It's fine. I'm currently single, so it doesn't matter if I go home a bit later. Sophia and I just hit it off, and I'd love to keep chatting. Sophia, aren't you planning on finding a boyfriend, or are you a bit of a skeptic about marriage? No. Elizabeth shook her head. I've been in relationships before. One of them ended recently, and before that, well, I was married, but we divorced. She shot me a challenging look. Ah, I see. Well, maybe you just haven't met the right person yet. Sophia patted Elizabeth's shoulder comfortingly. Sophia, you're lucky to have found the right person. Jack is wonderful. Yes, Jack is really good to me. I love him very much. You two really do look like a loving couple. Haha. Actually, we sometimes fight over small things, but that's just life, right? You just have to give in a little, show more love and understanding, and there's nothing you can't overcome. Really, My ex-husband and I had a fight once, and he abandoned me. How could he? Terrible, right? And now he's close to getting married again, leaving me to think about him every day, keeping me up at night. Elizabeth. I couldn't listen to this anymore and stood up, interrupting her. Sophia looked at me, puzzled. What's wrong? Elizabeth should be heading home, I said, adding, it's not safe for a woman to walk alone at night. True. Sophia nodded. Jack, why don't you walk Elizabeth out? Chapter 16. At the bottom of the apartment complex, Elizabeth looked at me with determination. Jack, I'm better suited to you than Sophia. Get lost. Elizabeth paused, moving closer to me. You'll regret pushing me away. Do you think you're some kind of prize everyone wants? Elizabeth, stop flattering yourself. I pushed her away. You're unhappy with your life, so now you want to disrupt mine. Samuel left you, so you're here to stir up trouble between me and Sophia. How can you think that of me? Elizabeth frowned, clutching the hem of my shirt with a pleading tone. Jack, I came back because I can't let you go. I miss you. Can't you hold me? Let's start over, please. I'll be a perfect wife, 1,000 times better than Sophia. Jack, please. You're all I have left. Don't leave me. Her words became a blur. All I felt was exhaustion. Even from a simple conversation with her, even breathing the same air, it was suffocating. I pulled my shirt away from her grasp and asked, Elizabeth, do you have no self-respect? Elizabeth stared at me, stunned. After a moment, she snapped, yelling, yes, I have no self-respect. And what about you? Are you any better than I am? Jack, you're about to marry Sophia, and you haven't even told her you've been divorced. Jack, we're just as bad as each other. Ha ha ha. We really are a match made in heaven. I was left speechless. It was true, I hadn't told Sophia about my past with Elizabeth because I thought it wasn't worth mentioning, let alone reminiscing about. I had locked those memories away in my heart. They were the most painful part of my life. I even tried to numb myself, to forget those memories, to forget Elizabeth, but I knew I couldn't keep going like this. I needed to tell Sophia everything. Without another word to Elizabeth, I walked her to the apartment complex's gate and returned home. Chapter 17. That night, I lay in bed with Sophia sleeping beside me. In the dark room, there was only the sound of our breathing. Sophia, are you still awake? Yes, I need to tell you something. What is it? Sophia turned, resting her head against my chest. I've been married before. I also had a child. And where is the child now? It was terminated before it was born. He must have been in pain, Sophia murmured. We lay there in a brief silence, holding each other closely. I continued, my ex-wife is Elizabeth. Sophia didn't say anything. After a few seconds, she replied, I had a feeling. You. She turned around and held me close. Jack, let the past stay in the past. We all need to look forward. What does it matter what happened before? I'm happy now, and I think you are too. Isn't that enough, Sophia? I hugged her tightly. At that moment, words were unnecessary as we held each other in silent embrace. Sophia's fingers traced softly along my face. Jack, I actually have something to tell you too. Go ahead. I'm pregnant. At that moment, time seemed to stand still. I'm going to be a father. Yes, you're going to be a father. Sophia smiled. Mr. Chi, are you ready to welcome this little life? Overjoyed, I held Sophia close and kissed her hair. This is wonderful, Sophia. We're having a baby. Chapter 18. Over the weekend, Sophia planned to visit her parents, saying she wanted to chat with them and share the pregnancy news. I felt uneasy, wanting to go with her, but she shook her head. Aren't you working overtime this weekend? Don't worry, I'll be fine on my own. I don't want to be a burden. After Sophia left, I went to the office to handle some business, getting so busy that I lost track of time. By the time I was ready to head home, it was already 10 o'clock at night. I packed my things, but suddenly heard footsteps. At this hour, who else could still be here? I looked up and found Elizabeth standing there. You've been working till now and haven't eaten, right? I brought you some fried noodles from the old man's stall by our university. You used to like it a lot. Elizabeth opened the takeout container and placed it in front of me. No need. Sophia's waiting for me at home. I put on my suit jacket, ready to leave. Don't lie to me. I saw her leave this afternoon. You're stalking her, I demanded. So what? Feeling guilty, Elizabeth chuckled, then pleaded. Jack, just one bite, please. Annoyed, I pulled out some cash and shoved it into her hand. Consider it bought. Now, please leave. Why? Why do you keep pushing me away? Elizabeth grabbed my hand, her nails digging into my skin. Do you really like Sophia that much? Who does she think she is? Jack, we have 7 years of history. Can you really just let that go? Let Sophia go, and let's be together. I don't care if you've been with her, I only care about you. Jack. Chapter 19. Elizabeth had almost completely lost control. Not wanting to continue interacting with her, I tried to reason with her. Elizabeth, Let it go. Live your own life, it'll be better for you. But I can't let go. Jack, I still love you. I can't let you go. Even when I was with Samuel, I was thinking about you. Even then, my mind was still on you. Jack, you started this. You can't just abandon me now, it's not fair. Elizabeth, you're seriously unwell. I sighed. Go home, and let's not see each other again. Don't bother Sophia, either. If you keep crossing these boundaries, I'll have to call the police. Elizabeth's body stiffened. She let go of me, staring blankly with a bitter smile. Jack, you really are heartless. Not nearly as heartless as you, I replied. Fine, very well, Elizabeth muttered, her eyes filling with tears, her lips trembling slightly. I heard that not long after I went abroad, you acquired my company. I'd like to take a look at my old place one last time. If you grant me this, I'll leave you alone after that. To be honest, I wasn't too keen on the idea. Her company had much of my effort poured into it. When it went public, I invested a lot of work, which is why I ended up acquiring it. I didn't want her lingering and seeing how it had grown under my management, but I decided that avoiding further hassle was worth agreeing. We set a date for next Friday, and I agreed. The week went by quickly, and at the appointed time, I waited for Elizabeth outside the company. She wore the suit I had bought for her 7 years ago. The outfit was neat, but the fabric looked noticeably worn. After all, it had been 7 years. The style was outdated, and the material wasn't as pristine as the newer options. Elizabeth gave a small smile and asked, "How do I look? You personally chose this for me back then, and I've kept it all this time." I avoided responding to her comment and turned toward the lobby. Come in. Chapter 20. I gave Elizabeth a tour of the various departments of the company and told her about some of the partnerships I had secured since taking over. Elizabeth ran her hand along the leather chair in the office, sighing. It's so different from what it used to be. Yes, the company has grown stronger and more mature, I replied. Jack, thank you for taking care of Tienyo. It was my creation, filled with my dedication, and it carries memories of us as well. I wasn't pleased with her choice of words. Don't get it twisted. This is my company now. I'm not managing it on your behalf. Also, it's not called Tienyo anymore, right? Of course. Elizabeth smiled, going along with me. Feelings don't lie. Jack, if you acquired Tienyo, it means you still care about me. You're overthinking it. I'm just a businessman. After the tour, as I was about to escort Elizabeth out, we ran into Sophia. Elizabeth. Sophia greeted her and then said, "Shall we go?" Go? Where to? I asked, confused. Aren't you taking Elizabeth out for dinner? She told me to wait for you two by the company entrance. Sophia replied. I glared at Elizabeth, who was smiling smugly as she walked over to link arms with Sophia. Jack probably just got too busy and forgot to mention it. Don't be mad at him, Sophia. The reservation's already made. Let's go. Chapter 21. At the restaurant, Elizabeth continuously filled Sophia's plate with food. Elizabeth, don't just give me food, please eat too, Sophia said politely. It's fine, Sophia. You eat up. Look at you. You're so thin. Someone might think Jack's not treating you well. Elizabeth chuckled, adding more food to my plate. Jack, this is one of your favorites. This dinner's on us, Elizabeth declared with a slight smile. Sophia, I won't let you leave until you're full. Sophia seemed to catch the underlying meaning, nodded, and stayed silent. Elizabeth, haven't you had enough of this game? I couldn't hold back anymore, setting my chopsticks down as I questioned her. Jack, why are you getting all worked up? You're scaring poor Sophia, Elizabeth scolded, then turned to Sophia. Don't mind him, Sophia. Jack's always been impulsive. He was like this back then too. Sophia pursed her lips and asked, Elizabeth, did you set this dinner up? Didn't I just say it's on me and Jack together, with you? Elizabeth, leave now, I snapped, unable to tolerate her any longer. I couldn't believe someone could stoop this low. Not wanting her there for another second, I gestured toward the door. Sophia tugged on my sleeve to calm me down, then turned to Elizabeth. Elizabeth, you brought us here today. Was there something specific you wanted to say? Well. Elizabeth pretended to think it over. There is something. What is it? Sophia, do you remember me telling you about my ex-husband? Yes, Sophia replied, looking uncomfortable. I want to get back together with him. What do you think? Well, that depends on both parties' willingness, I guess. Sophia looked down, disheartened. Good, then. Elizabeth nodded, smiling in satisfaction. Sophia, there's something I never told you. My ex-husband is actually Jack. Yes, I know, Sophia replied. Chapter 22. Elizabeth was stunned by Sophia's response, her eyes wide as she stared at her. You knew? Yes, I knew. You actually knew. Elizabeth was momentarily shocked, but then she burst into laughter. Then, catching us off guard, Elizabeth suddenly grabbed Sophia by the throat. You little slut. You knew Jack was my ex-husband, so why couldn't you let him go? You're nothing but a homewrecker. You've bewitched Jack. making him so infatuated that he won't even spare me a glance. If only you were gone, Jack would come back to me. Elizabeth, have you lost your mind? I rushed forward, prying her fingers off Sophia and shielding her in my arms. Sophia rubbed her neck, coughing as her eyes reddened. Elizabeth, I don't know what kind of past you had with Jack, but you're divorced, and he and I are building a new family. That means there's no chance for you and Jack anymore. Jack is mine. We're happy together, and I love him. Please stop meddling in our lives. No, I'm not the one clinging. Jack loves me. It's you who came between us. You destroyed our relationship and have the audacity to claim the moral high ground. Elizabeth had completely lost control. She looked at me, desperate, and pleaded, Jack, you love me, don't you? Leave Sophia. Let's be together. Okay, Elizabeth. Stop fooling yourself, I said, looking down at her coldly. You disgust me. No, this isn't right. If you didn't love me, why did you pursue me back then? If you didn't love me, why did you marry me? Jack, it's been 7 years. How can you say you don't love me anymore? How can you leave me? I need you so much. I let out a bitter laugh. Do you really not understand why I left? You cheated. You moved on. Isn't that easy enough to grasp? No, Jack, please listen to me. It wasn't like that. I never stopped loving you. I only ever loved you. I left Samuel to come back to you, didn't I? You think I don't know? I scoffed. Cameron told me everything. You left Samuel and came back because he found someone else while you were abroad. The two of you fell out, and he kicked you out, leaving you no choice but to return. Isn't that right? Yes, Samuel and I fell out, but my feelings for you are real. I don't believe it. 7 years of love can't just disappear. Jack, you still love me, right? You still care for me. I'm in your heart. Elizabeth reached out, trying to hold my hand, but I pulled away. Get lost. To me, Elizabeth died 7 years ago. No. Jack, you can't treat me like this. I'm Elizabeth. I'm your Elizabeth. Tears filled her eyes as she struggled with the mixture of love and hate, unable to let go but also unable to hold on. Chapter 23. The whole scene finally came to an end with the arrival of the police. Luckily, I had called them right after Elizabeth attacked Sophia. Otherwise, with Elizabeth in her unhinged state, I couldn't guess what else she might have done. On the way home, I asked Sophia, if you knew Elizabeth was my ex-wife and understood her character, why did you still come to the dinner? We got off lucky today, but what if we hadn't? I knew it probably wasn't going to be a pleasant dinner. But Elizabeth told me over the phone that if I didn't come, you'd end up having dinner with her alone. Seeing Sophia's dejected expression, all the anger in my heart melted away. I gently patted her head. How could that happen? If you hadn't come, I wouldn't have gone to dinner with her, but I was afraid. You know, when Elizabeth mentioned wanting to reconcile with you, I was really scared. I was afraid you might still have feelings for her. If that were true, I couldn't hold on to you. But at the same time, I didn't want to let go. As Sophia spoke, tears began to fall. I wiped her tears away. You looked so composed at the dinner table. I thought you had it all under control. What would you have done if I really agreed to get back together with Elizabeth? Would you have just let me go? What about the baby? What about yourself? I don't know. I still want to be with you, but I couldn't be that selfish. Silly. I held her close. We should talk about everything together from now on. Don't shoulder things on your own. Didn't you say that marriage is all about the little things? About being simple and honest? If we keep hiding things, how can we ever truly connect? Sophia sniffled, managing a smile. You're right. Chapter 24. After we got home, the police informed me that Elizabeth had been officially detained, even in custody. She continued to act out, going so far as to curse at the officers. When she was released, they forced her to undergo a mental health evaluation, where she was diagnosed with severe depression and anxiety. Since that incident, I haven't seen any trace of Elizabeth. Cameron later mentioned that she had desperately tried to reconcile with Samuel, but he had only been with her for fun. Now that he was thriving abroad, there was no chance he'd take her back. With nowhere to go, Elizabeth spent some time in the harbor city. At the next class reunion, Elizabeth didn't attend. Eventually, she faded from everyone's memory. She was left behind, forgotten, as nothing more than a distant memory. Before the avalanche, my wife ignored my pleas and went to meet her first love. To save her, I was caught in the snowstorm. Meanwhile, Charlotte and her first love lay in our marital bed, lost in passion. In my final moments, I called Charlotte for help, but all I heard was her cold, impatient voice. Jack, all you're good at is lying. If you die, it'll suit me just fine. In the end, I perished in the snow-covered mountains, and Charlotte, with tear-filled eyes, dragged her first love to join me in death. Chapter 1. I died, killed by an avalanche orchestrated by my wife's first love. Last night, Charlotte ignored my warnings and insisted on going skiing to meet her first love. and I, wanting to protect her, followed along. Suddenly, a loud boom echoed through the mountains, and the avalanche grew more violent. In the distance, I saw the cold, victorious look in Lucas's eyes as he spoke to me, his voice cutting through the empty expanse of the snowy mountain. "Jack, only the dead are obedient." So, he enunciated each word clearly, like a death sentence. "You shall rest here forever." Hearing this, my heart clenched, and though I wanted to run, it was too late. Before I could react, a massive wall of snow came crashing down, swallowing me whole. In an instant, I was buried, the cold seeping into my bones, my blood seeming to freeze. A crushing loneliness surged over me like a tidal wave. The feeling of suffocating inch by inch in a desperate struggle to survive was a despair unlike anything I had ever experienced. But I didn't want to die. If I died, what would happen to Charlotte? With all my remaining strength, I fumbled for my phone in my pocket and called Charlotte. Seconds passed like hours, but no one answered. The ringing in my ears felt like a death knell. If I closed my eyes now, I might never open them again. Finally, on the fourth attempt, Charlotte picked up. It took all my strength to speak, and even then, my voice was hoarse and broken. "Charlotte, help me." There was a pause, followed by a derisive laugh, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "Jack, what game are you playing now? You're a meteorologist, an expert in survival. You really need me to save you." In my daze, I heard another familiar voice in the background. It was Lucas. Suddenly, everything became clear. Charlotte wasn't missing because she was in danger. She had gone to meet Lucas. And here I was, a fool, risking my life to protect her, while she was with him. Charlotte's voice turned icy, colder than the snow weighing down on me, and it cut deep into my heart. "Jack, are you even a man? I don't have time for you right now. Lucas is hurt. Stop disgusting me." The next moment, the call ended abruptly. Her words felt like a knife to my heart, leaving me breathless with pain. And with that, my last hope for survival was extinguished. I stared blankly at the phone, not knowing how much time had passed. The air grew thinner, my lungs ached, and my body went numb from the cold until I finally closed my eyes, losing the last remnants of consciousness. Along with the snow, my heart was buried. My soul lingered with Charlotte and Lucas. At the foot of the mountain, the two of them huddled close together, a sight that pierced my very being. Lucas, the man responsible for my death, had lured me to the avalanche site, setting off the explosion that buried me. Charlotte, looking shaken, was still comforting Lucas, her voice filled with concern. "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" Lucas took her hand, his expression soft and full of affection. "Don't worry about me. As long as you're safe, that's all that matters." Hearing this, Charlotte's expression turned angry again, and she spat out her words with venom. "Thank goodness you came to save me in time. Not like Jack, that selfish coward, more concerned with saving his own skin than showing his face." I curled my lips into a bitter smile. When the avalanche struck, I had immediately gone searching for her, not caring about my own life. Yet she knew nothing of this and still saw me as a despicable person. Their tender exchange was like poison to me. No one remembered that I was still buried beneath the thick layers of snow, forgotten by all. Just then, a member of the rescue team approached and asked, "Was there anyone else with you when the avalanche happened?" I still held on to a faint hope that Charlotte might care about me, but in the next moment, I heard Charlotte's cold, indifferent voice. "No, it was just us." I couldn't help but let out a self-deprecating laugh. After all these years of marriage, it seemed my love had been for nothing. As the footsteps faded away, so did the last remnants of love and longing I had for Charlotte. Chapter 2. In the hospital, Lucas lay on the bed, looking weak and fragile. My soul lingered by the window, feeling nothing but bitter irony. His cunning was deeper than I had imagined. Beside him, Charlotte held his hand, her expression filled with worry and concern. "Lucas, you need to rest for the next few days. Don't worry, I've taken time off to take care of you." A wave of sourness welled up inside me, spreading through my entire being, and I could no longer suppress it. When Charlotte was with me, she always put her work first. The day before she insisted on going to the mountain to meet Lucas was our wedding anniversary. I had gone out of my way to prepare a table full of her favorite dishes, carefully planning a surprise for her return. Flowers, gifts, and a candlelit dinner. I hadn't missed a single detail of the rituals that women typically appreciate. But that day, Charlotte called to say she had to work late. I understood, and kept reheating the dishes, waiting for her. In the end, she told me she wouldn't be coming home, and before I could respond, she hung up. That night, I sat alone in the darkened living room until she finally arrived, and she came back reeking of men's cologne, Lucas's. In that instant, the light in my eyes was extinguished, and the pain that settled in was so intense it took my breath away. I couldn't find the words to speak. It turned out that in Charlotte's heart, it wasn't work that was important. It was me who was insignificant. Lucas gently patted Charlotte's shoulder, his smile tender. "It's okay, Char. It's just a minor injury. I'll be fine." But Charlotte frowned, venting her frustration with me. It's all Jack's fault. If he hadn't called me, you wouldn't have lost your footing and fallen. All he ever does is cause me trouble. I wanted to explain, to tell Charlotte that the call wasn't a trick, but the dead can't speak. A glint of slyness flashed in Lucas's eyes, though he maintained his feigned weakness. It's not Jack's fault. I was careless. He might have had an emergency. His words made me laugh in anger. Lucas knew I was buried under the snow and had deliberately fallen to divert Charlotte's attention so she wouldn't realize the danger I was in. Charlotte snorted, her tone filled with disdain. You're too kind, Lucas. You don't know Jack like I do. What emergency could he have? He even lied on the phone about being buried in an avalanche. How ridiculous. He's a meteorologist. Does he think I'm an idiot? I let out a bitter smile, a wave of sadness washing over me. A meteorologist dying in an avalanche, he had predicted. It was indeed ridiculous. But Charlotte seemed to forget that I did it for her. During Lucas's hospital stay, Charlotte prepared soup for him every day, acting like a dutiful wife. The entire ward praised her. You're such a virtuous young woman. Your husband is lucky to have you. Indeed, you're beautiful and caring. We're all envious. Upon hearing this, Lucas pulled Charlotte into his arms, gazing at her with deep affection. Char has always been the best in my eyes. Charlotte blushed slightly, smiling but saying nothing. Yet her silent acceptance hurt more than any words could. All of this felt like a knife stabbing into my chest, leaving me bleeding and broken. After Lucas was discharged, Charlotte brought him back to our home. The moment they stepped inside, they were greeted by the remnants of the romantic evening I had prepared before I died. The balloons had deflated, the candles had burned out, and the dishes on the table had gone cold and unappetizing. The gift lay discarded on the floor, unopened and abandoned, just like my feelings, which had always been trampled under Charlotte's feet. Standing in the doorway, Lucas put on a pitiful expression. Char, I've always wanted to surprise you, but I never had the right. Not like Jack, who could openly be by your side. A trace of pity appeared in Charlotte's eyes as she quickly shook her head, saying, No, Lucas, you're wonderful. Don't say that about yourself. It makes me sad. Then, she turned to the remnants of the surprise I had meticulously prepared, her face full of disgust. I hate these shallow things, just like I hate Jack. What else can he do besides these useless gestures? With that, she marched into the room, waving her hands and destroying everything. Did Charlotte really hate surprises? No, she loved them. I remember vividly the radiant smile on her face when she received flowers in college, flowers sent by Lucas. So for her, it wasn't the surprise that mattered, it was who prepared it. Amid the chaos, something crashed to the ground, the sharp sound of breaking glass echoing through the room. My soul jolted as I looked over. It was a photo of Charlotte and me, now lying on the floor, the frame shattered. In the photo, we were young, standing beneath the dappled shade of trees, smiling brightly. It was one of the few happy memories we shared. This was the only photo we had together because, later on, Charlotte became so busy with work that she didn't even have time for our wedding photos. Lucas's gaze darkened as it fell upon the picture. Charlotte, sensing his unease, casually said, It's broken. So be it. It doesn't matter. The next moment, I watched as she picked it up, tore it to shreds, and tossed the pieces into the trash without hesitation. Lucas lowered his head, a sinister, satisfied smile playing on his lips. I stared at the scene, my heart numb from the pain. I once believed that if I did everything right, I would eventually melt Charlotte's cold heart. Now I realized it was nothing but a foolish dream. If someone doesn't love you, no matter what you do, it's all in vain, and I didn't want to hold on any longer. I was too tired. All that remained was the cake I had made with my own hands, still sitting in the fridge. Suddenly, the shrill ring of a phone cut through the silence. Charlotte answered, her voice laced with impatience. Who is this? On the other end was a familiar voice, and I was surprised. It was my junior colleague from university, Victoria. We had worked at the same company after graduation, and she was always cheerful and easygoing, someone I got along well with. But now, she sounded furious, her voice brimming with anger. Do you know that something terrible happened to Jack? Charlotte's brow furrowed, and she snorted, full of disdain. You're Jack's little junior, aren't you? What is this? Did Jack put you up to this? I don't have time for your games. Chapter 3. On the other end of the phone, Victoria hadn't expected such a response. She took a deep breath, trying to keep her emotions in check, but her voice trembled. I'm not lying to you. Jack is really dead. Those words only made Charlotte angrier. She thought I was using this lowly lie to pressure her. Charlotte's eyes were filled with disdain, her indifferent tone cutting deep. I'm sorry, I don't know what your goal is with this joke, but you can tell Jack that whether he's dead or alive, I won't change my mind. Her voice grew colder, and her sharp words stabbed at my heart like a knife. If he's dead, that's just fine with me. Then she hung up without hesitation, even adding the number to her blacklist. I silently watched Charlotte's actions, feeling a wave of bitterness tightening around my chest. As expected, she still didn't believe I was truly dead. Her last words made all the years I had invested seem like a joke, not worth mentioning. Beside her, Lucas took her hand, his voice gentle. Char, don't get upset. I'll be worried if you make yourself sick. Charlotte's previously domineering demeanor vanished as she nestled into Lucas's arms like a delicate woman, her voice sweet and tender. I don't want to be angry, but Jack has gone too far. To think he'd involve others in such a lie to deceive me, I've had enough. As soon as he gets back, I'm divorcing him immediately. Lucas's face lit up with joy as he made his promise. Don't worry, as long as I'm here, I won't let you suffer even the slightest bit of harm. I looked coldly at this murderer, the fire of anger burning in my chest. Char, my heart has always belonged to you. Under the dim, intimate light, the love between them felt like a deep, dark abyss, making it hard for me to breathe, making me want to flee. But Charlotte, I'm never coming back. Your happiness is no longer my concern. In the following days, Charlotte and Lucas went on outings together. Forgetting me completely, they drove my car, used my credit cards, and stayed in my house. It wasn't until Charlotte began to sense something was wrong that she started to feel distracted even when she was with Lucas. I hadn't sent her a single message or made a call in 10 days. In the past, that would have been unthinkable. The last message in our chat was one I had sent the previous week, nothing more. Charlotte, with rising anger, typed furiously, Jack, I don't have time to play hide and seek with you. Are you dead somewhere? Get back here and finalize the divorce. I let out a bitter laugh. Unfortunately, I really was dead out there. Charlotte waited 3 more days but received no reply. She could no longer sit still, her desire to cut ties with me growing more urgent. So, one day, Charlotte, accompanied by Lucas, went straight to my office. I'm sorry, Jack hasn't been to work in several days. Didn't we already contact you about this? The receptionist responded, her tone filled with confusion. Hearing this, Charlotte froze, speechless for a long time. When she finally came to her senses, she suddenly remembered something. Pulling out her phone with trembling hands, I rubbed my eyes, letting out a self-mocking laugh, thinking I had seen it wrong. Was Charlotte finding this hard to believe? Hadn't she been wishing for my death all along? Now who was she pretending for? I watched as she slowly pulled up a number from her blacklist and dialed it. Finally, the ringing seemed to last an eternity. Charlotte's voice was filled with anger when she spoke. Where is Jack right now? On the other end, Victoria let out a bitter laugh. Sister-in-law, I remember I called you, didn't I? Jack is dead, but you refuse to believe it. Do you even have a place for him in your heart? The weight of those words fell heavily on Charlotte's ears, exploding like a bomb. Why won't you tell me the truth? Where is Jack really? I looked at Charlotte, slightly losing her composure, feeling a mix of emotions I couldn't quite name. Victoria could no longer hold back, her voice filled with rage as she shouted, Fine, if you really don't believe it, come and identify the body, you wretched woman. Chapter 4. After the call ended, Charlotte clutched her phone tightly, muttering to herself, No, that's impossible. Jack couldn't be dead. Victoria must be lying. Meanwhile, Lucas gently patted her back, pretending to comfort her. Maybe Jack got caught up with something outside and couldn't make it back in time. I couldn't help but admire Lucas's meticulous performance. He knew full well that I was dead, yet he continued to lie and deceive. Charlotte quickly regained her composure, letting out a sarcastic laugh, her tone laced with thinly veiled anger. Right. Someone like Jack wouldn't die so easily. He's a meteorologist. There's no way he'd die in an avalanche. Bad things always seem to linger. I lowered my gaze, a bitter smile tugging at my lips. Why was I always so worthless in her eyes? There were countless nights when I doubted myself, wondering if I hadn't done enough. But now I understood. It wasn't that I wasn't good enough. It was that there was never a place for me in Charlotte's heart. No matter how good I was, she would never see it. Throughout the journey, Charlotte acted as if she didn't care. But the sweat on the side of her face betrayed her. I knew Charlotte too well. Whenever she was nervous, she would sweat. For a brief moment, I found myself eagerly anticipating Charlotte's reaction when she saw my body. Lucas, still playing the part of the attentive, obedient man, held Charlotte's hand gently. Don't worry, no matter what happens, I'll be by your side. Charlotte, touched, nodded in agreement. At the police station, Victoria was already waiting in the lobby. When she saw Charlotte and Lucas approaching, her expression turned scornful and mocking, her eyes slightly red. I knew she was feeling indignant on my behalf. Jack just had an accident, and here you are, eager to start over with someone else. How could you do this? You don't deserve to be called my sister-in-law. Charlotte immediately stepped in front of Lucas, her face full of defensiveness, as if protecting him from even the slightest harm. What does Lucas have to do with this? Watch your mouth. Your senior can't even compare to a single hair on his head. She paused for a moment, glancing around as if searching for me. Where is Jack? What's his game this time? You've even involved the police in this. What does he hope to achieve? My soul floated nearby, feeling an overwhelming emptiness. Victoria's eyes flashed with cold fury, and she could no longer hold back. She rushed forward and slapped Charlotte hard across the face. The force of the slap was immense, the sound echoing loudly, and it happened so quickly that no one had time to react. Jack was such a good man. How could he have fallen for someone as cruel as you? Do you have no conscience? Charlotte, all these years, we've all seen how good he was to you. What right do you have to slander him? Her voice was filled with heart-wrenching pain and hatred. Victoria had always been a kind and gentle girl, someone who had even been bullied in school for being too introverted. A lonely girl in a foreign place. She often cried in secret, which broke my heart. I treated her like my own sister, encouraging her whenever I could, watching her grow stronger and more courageous day by day. It made me proud. But now, I'm sorry, little sister. I can no longer be the one you confide in. Charlotte's head snapped to the side, caught off guard by the slap. Her eyes filled with rage as she prepared to strike back, but a police officer quickly intervened, grabbing her arm. What's going on here? Do you think this is a marketplace? Victoria glared at Charlotte, her face showing signs of exhaustion as she let out a faint, self-mocking smile. You didn't believe it before, did you? Well, now the police are here. Let's go identify the body. For a moment, Charlotte seemed stunned, but she quickly regained her composure. She raised an eyebrow, her demeanor light and carefree. Fine. I'd like to see how this farce ends. The morgue was cold, just like the day I was buried under the avalanche. My heart ached painfully. Victoria ignored Charlotte, turning instead to the police officer, her expression restrained but full of sorrow. Officer, we're here to identify Jack's body. With a loud whoosh, a drawer from the cold storage was pulled open, revealing the body of a man. From a distance, Charlotte's entire body sagged, crumbling in an instant. Chapter 5. My body lay stiff and pale, drained of all color, taking on the frosty white hue of someone who had died in the cold. Upon closer inspection, patches of snow and frost still clung to my skin. Perhaps it was because I had been lifeless for so long that vivid red liver mortis had formed, emitting a faint stench of decay. Several people in the room instinctively covered their noses and mouths. Oddly enough, in my final moment, I was smiling. The sight was so eerie it sent chills down everyone's spine. They say that before freezing to death, people often dream of their happiest moments. And I had dreamed of Charlotte. The irony was that in my dream, we were deeply in love. How laughable. It was supposed to be a happy smile. Yet it was nothing more than the desperate illusion of a dying man. Charlotte remained frozen in place, as if her feet were cemented to the ground. Her mouth hung open in disbelief, and she shook her head, murmuring, "How can this be? How could Jack be dead?" I silently looked away, my heart heavy with sorrow, unable to bear the sight of my own corpse. Victoria stared at my body, sadness clouding her eyes as she wiped away her tears. Now do you believe it? Jack froze to death in that avalanche. Charlotte's heart clenched painfully, her eyes turning red and brimming with tears. Her voice trembled, rough with sorrow. I'm sorry, I didn't know it would come to this. Her reaction caught me off guard. In life, she had loathed me so much, yet now, in death, she seemed so distraught. Lucas quickly supported her as she wavered on her feet, pretending to offer comfort. Char, don't be too sad. None of us could have seen this coming. I couldn't help but smile bitterly. Unforeseen. Lucas had orchestrated this entire situation to kill me. Victoria's anger flared, her voice seething with resentment. If it weren't for you two, Jack would never have gone to that godforsaken place. You've always had your eyes on your unforgettable first love, never sparing a thought for Jack. Charlotte, hearing this, momentarily forgot her grief and immediately defended Lucas. This has nothing to do with Lucas. He didn't know anything. Besides, I never asked Jack to go. He insisted on following me. Even though I had already seen through Charlotte, her words still made my heart falter, plunging me into complete despair. It was my own fault. I had been so concerned for her safety that I had risked my life. But was it really wrong to love someone? Lucas lowered his head, his face hidden in the shadows, making it impossible to read his expression. Only the slight, gloating smile at the corner of his lips betrayed him. Victoria's chest heaved with fury, ready to lash out. But before she could, a police officer entered the room. There's been a new development in the case. We found a witness. The officer's words hit like a bombshell. Charlotte's eyes widened in shock, and she grabbed the officer's arm, urgently asking, "Isn't this just a simple avalanche case? What's really going on?" The person brought in was a man with a face unfamiliar to me. I didn't recognize him. But as soon as Lucas saw the man, his expression changed drastically. I finally remembered who he was, one of the people who had gone skiing with us. The man entered the room and immediately locked eyes with Lucas, his gaze unwavering. Slowly, he raised his hand and pointed directly at Lucas. It was him. I saw with my own eyes how he ignited the explosion. Charlotte's eyes widened in shock as she stared at Lucas, her lips trembling. She couldn't believe what she was hearing, her voice shaking. "Lucas, is it true? Did you really do this?" Victoria clenched her fists tightly, barely restraining herself from lunging at Lucas. An avalanche can spiral out of control with just a loud noise. Did you do it on purpose to kill Jack? Lucas maintained an innocent expression as he moved closer to Charlotte, his voice desperate as he tried to explain. Char, I would never do such a thing. I'm being framed. But in the next moment, the men shattered Lucas's lie without hesitation. I have a video recording. It's all on tape, and I can prove it. Chapter 6. Lucas's expression instantly turned vicious. He must never have imagined that his actions that day would have been caught on camera. The phone screen displayed footage from the day of the avalanche. In the video, Lucas could be seen hiding behind a rock, igniting something. While not far away, my anxious figure searched frantically. Then came the loud boom. The entire sequence was captured clearly on video. The brutal truth laid bare for everyone to see. The men looked righteously at the police officer. I saw him acting suspiciously, so I followed him. But by the time I realized what was happening and tried to warn the innocent men, it was too late. Each word he spoke laid out the cruel reality of my death. Charlotte's face was full of shock. She stumbled backward a few steps, grabbing Lucas's sleeve, her voice trembling as she demanded, "What's going on? Lucas, did you kill Jack?" Lucas remained silent, his head bowed, seemingly lost in thought. But Charlotte pressed him, her voice growing louder. "Answer me. Why did you do this?" My soul hovered nearby, coldly observing the scene as the two of them turned against each other. All I felt was a deep sense of irony. Finally, Lucas lifted his head and let out a bitter laugh. "Why did I do it? I did it all for you. You were the one who kept saying you hated Jack. So why are you pretending now? Do you even have the right to criticize me?" Lucas tore off his mask completely, forcefully shaking off Charlotte's hand. She was violently thrown to the ground, all traces of his former tenderness gone in an instant. "See, this world is full of illusions. Even love. Jack could have escaped, but because of you, he went into the heart of the avalanche looking for you. Who's to blame for his stupidity? Risking his life for a woman who didn't love him." Lucas's tone was full of disdain, but his words were true. Charlotte collapsed to the floor, unable to hold back her tears. She covered her face, crying uncontrollably, filled with helplessness and confusion. "I'm sorry, Jack. I'm so sorry. It's all my fault." I let out a bitter smile. "What's the point of crying now, Charlotte? Wasn't my death exactly what you wanted? You should be happy." Then, Charlotte suddenly lunged at Lucas, slapping him hard across the face before they started to fight furiously. Her voice was filled with hatred. "Why? You killed Jack. I want you to pay with your life." The scene quickly descended into chaos until the police finally pulled them apart. Lucas was then forcibly handcuffed. Victoria's gaze was icy as she watched. Unwilling to engage with the two lunatics, she instead made arrangements with the police for further proceedings. Then, with a look of utter disdain, she turned to Charlotte and said, "Watching dogs fight is truly satisfying." With that, she left to prepare for my funeral. Charlotte, her hair disheveled and her makeup smeared beyond recognition, was a rare sight of disarray and loss of composure. She staggered toward my body, slowly reaching out to gently caress my cheek, her touch so careful, as if she feared breaking me. Tears once again streamed down her face uncontrollably. "Jack, it's my fault. I'm so sorry for what I did to you." As I watched, my heart remained unmoved. Tears fell onto my cold, lifeless face. But a dead man can't feel anything, and I no longer long for this belated love. Chapter 7. Charlotte returned home alone, stepping into the overwhelming darkness that greeted her. The house was still in the same state of disarray as it had been after that fateful day. She silently closed the door, walked into the kitchen, and poured herself a glass of water. As she drank, she absent-mindedly opened the refrigerator, and there, right in front of her, was the cake. Charlotte froze, her hand gripping the refrigerator door so tightly that her knuckles turned white. In that moment, all the emotions she had been suppressing finally erupted. The cake's shelf life was short, and even though it had been in the fridge, it had long since spoiled. But Charlotte didn't care. She took the cake out, her hands trembling. Then, she began to eat it, spoonful after spoonful, shoveling it into her mouth without regard for appearances, the cream smearing her face and clothes. Watching Charlotte break down in such a way was unfamiliar to me, and I couldn't quite describe the feeling it stirred within me. She ate the entire cake. When she finally finished, Charlotte could no longer stand. She slid down to the floor, her body collapsing as sobs escaped her in the quiet of the house, her words barely more than whispers. "Jack, please come back, won't you? I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Isn't that how people are? They don't cherish what they have when it's alive, and only regret it once it's gone. But there are no do-overs in life. Everyone must pay for their mistakes." After a long while, Charlotte suddenly remembered something in the trash. She quickly got up and began to frantically rummage through it until she found the torn pieces of our photograph. Along with the photo, she also found the gift I had never managed to give her, a pearl necklace I had spent a long time picking out. Charlotte stared blankly at the pile of torn photos and the necklace. Her silence was absolute, her eyes empty, her heart aching in a way that words couldn't describe. When she opened her mouth, only a raspy breath escaped. Charlotte didn't sleep that night. She spent the entire time painstakingly piecing together the torn photograph, treating it as if it were a precious treasure, seemingly forgetting how she had so casually discarded it as trash. As dawn began to break, Charlotte's eyes were bloodshot, but she looked at the photo on the table, now glued back together, with the joy of a child who had recovered something precious. The photo was whole again, but the tear marks that marred it would never disappear, just as we, separated by life and death, could never return to what we once were. Victoria organized my funeral with dignity and grace. At the service, she wept bitterly, but her eyes remained steadfast as she made a vow to my memorial. Brother, don't worry, I'll pull myself together and live a good life. Hearing her words, the last of my worries melted away, but Charlotte wasn't allowed inside the funeral. This was Victoria's explicit instruction. She coldly issued the order, turning Charlotte away despite her grief-stricken expression. You're not welcome here. You don't deserve to attend my brother's funeral. Charlotte stood outside, begging desperately, her tone humbled to the ground. Please, Victoria, just let me see him one last time. I want to say goodbye. But Victoria didn't even look back, leaving Charlotte to break down in hysterics alone. Charlotte, from this moment on, we owe each other nothing. A few days later, Lucas was released from the police station. The video was deemed insufficient as evidence and couldn't substantiate a criminal conviction. When Charlotte heard the news, she flew into a rage at home, her face twisted with anger. Once she calmed down, she quietly cleaned up the mess. In the mirror, Charlotte carefully put on the pearl necklace I had given her, her makeup flawless. Then she took out her phone and sent a message to Lucas. Tonight at 9:30, meet me at our old spot. I have something important to discuss with you. At that moment, I had no idea that the seeds of hatred in Charlotte's heart were beginning to take root. Chapter 8. My soul followed Charlotte to an old neighborhood, where it was already late, and there were few people on the streets. In the distance, I saw Lucas waiting by the roadside. Charlotte put on a gentle and pitiful expression, masking the hatred in her eyes. She gently took hold of Lucas's arm, softening her voice. Lucas, I'm sorry. I was too impulsive that day and said things I didn't mean. Please don't take it to heart. She looked up at him with watery, glistening eyes, full of affection, and Lucas, despite himself, couldn't resist. After all, she was someone he had once loved, and he couldn't completely harden his heart. He let out a sigh. All right, Char, I don't blame you. Upon hearing this, Charlotte's face lit up with a smile, and she nodded eagerly before wrapping her arms around Lucas. I knew you still loved me. Just as Lucas was about to hug her back, a muffled groan filled the air, laden with suppressed pain. Charlotte had brought a brick down hard on Lucas's head. I watched in shock as Lucas fell to the ground, blood trickling down his face. He writhed in pain, unable to get back up. Charlotte, you deceived me. Charlotte looked down at him, her lips curling into a faint smile, her expression cold and detached. You need to pay for Jack's life. She bent down, grabbed the back of Lucas's shirt, and, with a surprising amount of strength, began to drag him. Only then did I realize that behind the neighborhood, hidden in the woods, there was an ice house. Charlotte dragged Lucas to the deepest part of the ice house, the cold seeping into their bones, making them shiver uncontrollably. Lucas's voice came out in broken fragments, pleading for help. Please, Charlotte, save me. I don't want to die. Charlotte gave a sad, bitter laugh, her gaze growing increasingly fierce. Since we are both responsible for Jack's death, then we both should die. Without hesitation, she turned the ice house's temperature to its lowest setting. After speaking, Charlotte walked to a corner of the ice house, her high heels clicking on the floor. She sat down, hugging her knees to her chest, her hands gently stroking the pearl necklace around her neck. Behind her, Lucas lay motionless on the ground, his face pale, his body slowly freezing until it stiffened and straightened, his breath finally stopping. He froze to death. Charlotte, too, began to feel the cold wrapping around her, like an invisible layer of ice crystals. Even her breath turned to white mist. She shivered helplessly, her face twisted in pain from the cold, her teeth chattering, and her thoughts growing increasingly chaotic. As she neared death, Charlotte's mind was filled with sorrow. She realized just how much Jack must have suffered before he died, how excruciating it was to freeze to death. In her blurry vision, Charlotte thought she saw my spirit. She used all her strength to lift her hand, trying to reach out to me, whispering my name over and over. Jack, I'm coming to find you. Finally, the world fell silent. Everything had reached its conclusion. I breathed out one last sigh, my heart filled with relief. It was time for me to go. Not every love story has a happy ending. The world is full of regrets. What's most important is that life is about so much more than just fleeting romances. There are other things worth living for. It took me this short life to learn that lesson. I hope that everyone learns to cherish what they have without needing to experience loss.